Hi, everyone. So I once said that AI might take over perfumery. They might replace perfumers. And probably a year ago, I believed that. But it wasn't until I became a perfumer and I got into this program, the Grasse Institute of Perfumery, that I realized that AI cannot completely replace perfumers because perfumery is an art. When you're creating the fragrances, you start to see that there's so much intuition that goes into creating fragrances, sensory intuition, artistic vision, cultural practices and cultural foods and languages and places and things and people. And it's a lot more nuanced than just putting data into an algorithm and having it do something for you or make something for you based on your recommendation or your prompt. So I think that the age of AI is really going to elevate the artists in the world. So the people who are the artists and the creators and the idea generators, and they can validate those ideas and make it come to fruition through their analysis and their inputs and their suggestions. Those are the ones that are really going to be elevated in this age of AI because creativity is dying. So, to make it more concrete, here are the 4 reasons why I don't think that AI will completely replace perfumers. However, in the end of the video, I'm going to tell you what AI will do, in my opinion. So, the first reason is sensory intuition. I already mentioned that. Sensory intuition is the ability to connect with a fragrance or a scent and adapt it on a sensory level beyond data. So when I'm creating perfumes for our homework assignments and for my own ideas that I have for lines that we're going to launch in the future for Mossy, you keep trying until you feel it. One of my biggest transformation in making perfume is that I went from just trying to make things that smell good to making things that I feel resonate with me and bring out something inside of me and make me feel something. And in order to do that, it's intuition. It's not just the science. There's ingredients that I use that I would never have thought about using if it wasn't for intuition. Like we have an assignment right now at the current recording of this video. After the second level, we got an assignment to make a perfume based on a music video. And I'm using ingredients that visually you would not think about using in that fragrance, but when you really feel the music and feel what you're seeing, you start to see that even though this ingredient wouldn't be the first type of ingredient to come to mind to use in that fragrance, it works because it's an intuition. So that sensory intuition is so important. And I'm not saying that AI can't be programmed to come close to that, but there's going to be outliers, things that you're going to throw in there that, even AI would never have given you. And it works because maybe you put it at just the right amount and it just makes all the world of a difference and you can feel that scent because of that. So that's the first thing. The second thing is that perfumery requires an artistic vision. And this I'm very familiar with as a business owner. I feel like an entrepreneur. I'm currently functioning as a business owner. And to me, the difference between an entrepreneur and a business owner is that an entrepreneur finds a different way of doing something. And I'm getting there, but right now on paper, I look like a business owner because entrepreneurs, a lot of them are like tech companies and things like that. So anyway, as a business owner, I'm very familiar with artistic vision, and I know that in order to create anything, you need a vision. The more inspiring the vision, the better the creation. Vision is important because you want to take people on a journey. Where are we going? The vehicle to get to that vision is the sensory intuition, but the end goal, right? You want to make people feel sorrow. You want to make people feel happy. And the interesting thing about the vision is that one feeling can be interpreted differently or displayed differently in different people. So if I feel happy, I might express my happiness by going out and dancing in the rain. Somebody else might express their happiness as peace. That's their happiness. They are at peace. Someone else might display their happiness as love. Being with someone else makes them happy. Even emotions can be open to interpretation. And that's what makes it so beautiful, that it can be so diverse in the way you represent it, even in a fragrance. Some people think candy is a representation of happiness. Some people think flowers is a representation of happiness. We can go in depth with this in terms of philosophy. So vision is important. Where are you taking this person? Are you taking them to a place? You want to take them to Costa Rica with that fragrance and remind them of the beaches and the trees and the plants and the people and the vibe and the music? You want to take them to Mars? No one's ever been to Mars that I know of, except for maybe Elon. But you want to take them to Mars? How would that feel based on what we know about Mars and what we feel when we think about Mars as a different planet? So artistic vision is important. And you're still going to need someone to put that in terms of prompting the AI tool. And not only that, but you're going to need someone to choose obscure ingredients or different ingredients to make that dream come to fruition. And you're also going to need someone to smell it and decide, okay, is this working or not? Am I feeling the vision? And that takes a foundation of perfumery. And that's so important to niche perfumery. So the third thing that will stop AI from being able to completely replace perfumers is culture, personal stories, and history is all tied into making perfumery. The kinds of perfumes that are made in Dubai is different than the kinds of perfumes that are made in America. That's all culture. The kinds of perfumes that are made in Europe is different than the kinds of perfume that might be made in Africa. And what's considered luxury here might be very different than what's considered luxury in Dubai or the entire Middle East. And yes, of course, we can program AI and give the AI data to know about that culture and be able to make perfumes that are unique to that culture or resonate with that culture. But again, it has to tie into the story and it has to make people feel something. And a lot of times perfumers are great at delivering that. Otherwise, what AI will start doing is giving people the same recommendations. And it's basically what's being done now. We're making a lot of perfumes or dupes or similar to each other. And some of them are not similar intentionally. They might have made it and thought that they were making something different, but it ends up being similar because there's so much perfumes. There's like millions of perfumes, right? It's very hard to be different now. I don't know if there's millions of different perfumes, but there's hundreds of thousands, I think, of perfumes. I think it's over 27,000 a couple years ago, but that's not accounting for all the other perfumes that you don't even know about in different countries from different brands you never even heard about. So I have a feeling that number can be multiplied easily by 4 or 5 and counting. So it's very hard to make something completely unique. And if you say it's unique, there's no way of knowing that if you go to the middle of nowhere in a village somewhere, that someone didn't make something similar. That's just what it is. So that's cultural and historical understanding and personal stories based on your personal history through your family and your communities and your ethnicity and things like that also come into play with making perfumes. And it's natural, it's not something that's intentional. Like if you grew up wearing musk and wearing oud, those are the kinds of perfumes you're going to gravitate towards because you grew up with it. Just like if I grew up eating Nigerian food, you might not like Nigerian food, but I love Nigerian food because I grew up eating Nigerian food. And to me, it's one of the best foods in the world. To you, it might not be. And that's okay because you're not used to it. So culture is embedded inside of us. It's not something we have to force or try. It's going to come out in our fragrances as well. I grew up here in America, so I guess that's why I'm not making perfumes that smell like Nigerian oils and things like that. But I'm getting there. Masi, we'll get there. We'll get there. It's hard to find, but I'm going to travel to West Africa someday and I'm going to go find some of those things that I'm looking for and make those perfumes. And I'm really excited about that. So anyway, the fourth thing that's going to stop AI from completely replacing perfumers is human connection. I already see this a movement rising that's anti-AI and just anti-technology. And we've seen that even before the announcement of ChatGPT, because AI has been around for a while, but even before the announcement of ChatGPT, we've seen this anti-technology movement sort of underground, almost like the niche perfumery movement. Not a lot of people know about it, but when you know, you know. There are people out there living off the grid. They don't want nothing to do with Western or technologically advanced cultures or civilization. They are ready to just live amongst the plants and the animals and the trees. And I don't blame them, because sometimes I want to tap out too. I want to tap all the way out, because it's a lot. Overstimulation. I'm sorry, I'm getting a message. There's so much overstimulation. So I see how they feel. So human connection, people want to have conversations with people and hear their stories and feel their passion. When you listen to me sometimes, I hope, you might be able to feel my passion. AI, when you're reading it or even if you're interacting with it, you're going to feel like there's something missing. It's going to take a very long time before we get to the point where an AI, even a robot, is exactly like a human. I think that's going to take 50 years. And even then, there's going to be something that tells you that it's not. There has to be, because we got to know the difference. If you don't know the difference, it becomes a problem. If we invent something, we can't tell the difference between this person and that person, then it's like, so how do we control this if we can't tell the difference? Right? If an AI bot creates a crime, are you going to put that AI robot in jail, or are you going to put their programmer in jail? So we got to know how to tell the difference. So human connection is important, and it's important because a perfumer expressing their intention behind a fragrance is very important in perfumery. Like with High Times, for example, my intention wasn't to replicate a fragrance that already existed in the 1970s. My intention was to replicate my imagination of the 1970s, because I never lived in the 1970s. So based on the stories I've heard, because I talk to a lot of elders and I love listening to people's stories, and I've even talked to my own parents who was here in the 1970s. My father specifically, he came to this country around that time. He came to this country before he brought us here, and he was like working night shifts and going to school just to build up his equity so he can bring us here and create a better life for us, or a more fulfilling life. But even in Nigeria, we were in like not well off, we were okay, but he wanted to come here. He thought that there was a great opportunity here for us, for all the kids, because there was 6 of us. So I would hear some of his stories about how New York City was, because he was in New York City, Brooklyn. And he would tell me some of the things that he faced and some of the ways things were. And it was very different back then than it is now. So I took all of that and I replicated this perfume to represent my imagination of the 1970s. So I wanted to represent that in the fragrance as an honest portrayal of my imagination of the 1970s. And guess what? There's a lot of people's imagination. It might not be the true representation of the 1970s in terms of perfumery, but in terms of the era and the aura that you got from seeing those pictures and hearing those stories, a lot of people can resonate with that. And that's what perfumery is about, intentioning your own personal story and your own why, just like anything you do in life. So, like I said, the last thing that's going to stop AI from completely replacing perfumers is going to be that human connection, and hearing the perfumers or the creative directors or the brand owners' story about why they made that perfume and what it's supposed to represent to them, or how it makes them feel, or where it takes them, or what memory it evokes from them. So, as promised, let's talk about the last thing that I want to talk about, which is what will AI do for perfumery? How will it play out in perfumery? And for me, just like every other industry, AI is going to be sort of like a co-pilot. It's going to be an assistant. So you might not have to do as much manual labor in terms of mixing and trials. It might reduce the number of trials you make to get to what you want, but you still got to be intimately involved in that process as a perfumer, and you still got to have knowledge of a wide array of ingredients. It doesn't cancel the amount of knowledge that you have to know and the amount of smelling sessions you have to do with all these ingredients, because what you put into that algorithm to give you that final product is going to be dependent on what's in here. You're still the mastermind, you're still the creator, you're still the inventor, you're still the perfumer. Some of you might be saying, I don't need AI to limit the amount of trials that I make. I can do it myself. But you can also make the argument that limiting the amount of trials you make through suggestions and inputs and faster changes is also more sustainable, right? You're wasting less material, you're using less bottles for your trials that you just have to throw away or wash, and you could reuse it, but you're just wasting less materials, you're wasting less resources, and you're getting down to that goal that you want, that you already envision in your mind already. You created it, you're the inventor of it, so why not get there faster? So I don't think that there's anything wrong with being a co-pilot, but there is ethical considerations around using AI for perfumery, same as there are ethical considerations with using AI to write your blogs or your essays, or using AI in medicine, or using AI in finance. So some of those ethical consideration is disclosure. You have to disclose to people that this was AI, either AI assisted, AI generated. And then also the second consideration in terms of business ethics and perfumery is that you have to make sure that you maintain some level of originality. So you have to clearly decide for yourself, how much do you want to use AI? Do you want to use AI just to make tweaks, or do you want to use AI from start to finish to create this new fragrance? And again, if you do that, then just you have to disclose it. I just want to make it clear that I'm not using AI as a co-pilot when I make my fragrances, because I'm doing it for passion, I'm doing it for joy. Like, if I'm going to use AI to make the fragrances, then I might as well not make the fragrances. Like, if I'm going to take time out of my day job as a doctor, working full time, to do this as a hobby and then also for my business, then I'm going to do it the real way. And that's just who I am. Some people don't care and they just want to do what's easiest and get there quicker, which is fine. But I feel like you have to actually learn the craft before you can start utilizing AI, even in an ethical way. Because if you don't learn the craft and you start using AI, you're not even going to know where to stop. Where does it start? Where does it stop? Because you don't know enough. So it has to start earlier. You might have to, AI might have to be the one to create the fragrance for you, because you don't even know what you're doing in the first place. But when you know what you're doing, you know how to use the tool in a way that's ethical, and you also know how to use the tool in a way that's not ethical, which is a personal dilemma, right? We can't assume that everyone's doing the same thing or the same type of person or the same way. Some people don't want to operate like that. Do most people not want to operate like that? Maybe not, but there are people who do not want to operate like that because they don't find joy in that. It takes away some of their humanity and their love for the craft and their joy that they get from creating the fragrances when they operate in that way, where they're just using AI for everything and they have no intellectual property in it, or they don't have any creative expression in it, and they just don't feel anything wrong with it because they don't care about the craft. And as time goes on, you're going to see who those people are and who those people are not. But I just want people to avoid calling people bad people, because just like anything, like when kids write essays, some people plagiarize, or those bad kids. I think we all just have to hold ourselves to a higher standard, right? A good person is not someone who's perfect. A good person is someone who has self-control. They know their capacity. They know that they can be bad. They know that they could misuse their privileges and misuse what they have. But instead of doing that, they say, no, I'm not going to be that kind of person, even if they want to. So that to me is a good person. It takes a lack of self-control to develop self-control. So we're all going to go through a phase in life, an era in our life, where we are not going to be doing the right thing. It's not until we make a decision as we get older and say, you know what, I'm not going to be that type of person anymore. That's when we take our power back, because then we're not slaves to our desires or our sinful ways. Okay, but it takes a process. That's why I avoid calling people good or bad, because the story is not over. We can't call labels if they haven't made a decision, a conscious decision. And you can tell who has made a conscious decision. They're the ones who you hold them accountable for something and they don't try to fix it. If you hold that person to accountable and they don't say sorry, or they don't want to be better, or they don't try to avoid doing that or lessen the amount of times they do that, then I think then we can sort of put labels, because they have made their own label. They have made their own decision. Going back to AI and ethics, there are people who are using it all kinds of ways, but we have not developed a consciousness around AI. We have not developed rules or ethical principles that's widespread around AI. We need leaders still. We need people to let people know, like, this is not how you should be using it, even though your friends are doing it, even though your supervisor might be doing it, even though people you trust and admire might be doing it, doesn't mean it's right. So you still have to have that sort of like principle and that standard set. And then as time goes on, people will be educated about how you should be using this, and there will be ways to hold people accountable. Okay? So that's how I feel. You might feel differently. It's okay. Express yourself, but stay respectful and let me know what you think. It's going to be a journey, and I'm excited to see where we go. And wherever we go, as long as you have the right principles, you know who you are, you know what you want, you know how you want to operate, you're not going to be afraid. You're not going to be afraid, and you're going to use it the right way, disclose it the right way, and it's going to benefit you and your people in the right way. Thank you so much. This is Shamaka. Thanks for watching. Watch my next video. Bye.